What up, players? It's WarbossTae up in this mud doing a motivational Monday. Really quick video here. I was motivated by Matthew's videos on organizing a project week by week, having it written out schedule-wise. I wanted to show you my method for doing it. It's something I remember going over once a couple years back, and I wanted to touch up on it because I think it might be of value to you if your brain works this way. So I've got a notebook here. You only really need a couple pages for notes. If you want to write down your color recipes or anything pertinent, especially in the challenge, if you want to write down story ideas or joke ideas, then you don't have to go flipping around for anything, or daily questions, whatever. But today I'm using this page entirely as my schedule planner. If I want to be very, very loosey-goosey, and I just want to have it written down what my weekly plan is at the start of the week, this is how I would break it down. Week 1, 2, 3, 4. And you go in the order that you're painting your miniatures or whatever your project is. So in this case, I'm thinking I'm doing a human-sized force of maybe a couple squads, and I'm going to be batch painting them, so doing them in an assembly line. So the way I would break it down would be I would paint everything base coat wise for the first week. The second week I would do shades. The third week I would do highlights, and the fourth week I would do details, any extra effects that I want to do, and just clean up, do the basing, and then seal and varnish those miniatures. Now, it's easy when you look at it that way. Your project could be completely different. If yours is more of a build project or a scenery, terrain piece, then you could break it down week by week completely differently. But generally, I would think this is how you would break down your projects. Then if you want to go even more into detail, you could break them down day by day. And this is just a very general way that I've done it. You could be completely different. You can organize your painting differently, or, you know, it's up to you. But if you want to organize it day by day, you break it down by writing the day of the month and then a quick word or two summary of what you would plan on doing. So flesh tones in all the soldiers, then painting the boots and leather, because usually working from the inside out, you would paint the skin first, and then you would paint the boots and the leather, then work on their armor, colored armor or silver, gold, metallics, then the weapons on the next day. And then the 5th and the 6th and the 7th day, I call it catch up, but it's really more cleanup. So if you're painting and you're going really fast because you're batch painting 100 night goblins, and you get that goblin green skin all over the robes, but you're just trying to get through 100 goblins in a night, then you're going to come back on one of these cleanup days with the black paint and paint over the robes, or, you know, whatever you painted that you made a mistake on. Those are your catch up and cleanup days. So by the end of the week, you were able to accomplish your first objective, which is painting all the base coats. Then the same thing for week 2, you're looking at shades. And if you're batch painting, of course, you're hitting one model after the other in a line, boom, boom, boom. So only doing the flesh tones, you only have to worry about having one pot of paint out at any one time. You're not working at doing every single shade on a model, because the danger in doing flesh tones and then opening up the known oil in the Agrax Earth shade and painting the other things is that the shades could run together. They could puddle. They could leave very unsightly effects on your miniatures. That's not what we want. So you would only paint one shade on your model, put it back down, let it dry, pick up the next model, paint that same shade. So flesh tones for the first day. By the time you get to the end of your whichever model is at the end of the line, be it the 10th miniature or the 100th miniature, that model at the very beginning that you first painted that color on is going to be dry. And then the second day would be armor and weapons, which is usually a darker color like known oil or Agrax Earth shade. If you're painting silver, if you're painting gold and you want it to look bright gold, you would do like a seraphim sepia or some other, like maybe even flesh tone if you want to go really warm and reddish. And the rest of the week would just be to play catch up. And what I call catch up for shades is basically going back over with your original base color paint and painting the flat surface area that is the most prominent, that has the most surface area, so that the shades is only the shade paint is only really obvious in the dark recesses. You don't have to do that. You don't have to touch up back to the base color. It's something I find always helps me when I move to the next step, because it's less work that I have to do, and that is doing the highlights. When you're going to the flesh tones, boots and leather, armor, and weapons, again, it's pretty much the same recipe, but or the same formula, the order that you're working on them. It's just that things are going to take a little bit longer in the detail stage, because now you're making sure you're not just slapping paint on any area of the miniature, but you're also working on where the paint is going to be and where the shades can still be seen and visible, so you have that color shift between the dark and the light. Finally, you would have for week 4 details, basing, and sealing. It's basically just cleaning up every single day, and then working on basing for one of those days, and then cleaning up. So you would be highlighting the base. If you're gluing sand or you're putting down the texture paint, then you're letting it dry. The next day, maybe you're still letting it dry. You're working on cleaning up the other highlight details and whatnot. And then the last 2 days, you could be highlighting the base, dry brushing on some lighter colors onto the base to give it some highlighting and some depth, and then maybe even gluing some static grass or whatever. And then one day for sealing, so just taking your models outside and spraying it with this varnish, a matte varnish or a satin varnish or a gloss varnish, depending on what effect you want the finished sealed model to look like. And then smiley face, so that you can rest and just take a look at your models, line them up on the table, get the lights set up, start snapping some pictures and posting all of your results on the Discord, maybe even making a video on it for the February painting challenge. That's it, you guys. That's how I organize my projects. If you're looking at doing a big project, like if I've got a commission and I want to have it organized so I'm not just going by the seat of my pants and shooting from the hip, then it's always good to have a plan. And when you're planning, it's always great and the most useful if you have your plan written so you could see it in front of you. You don't even have to have a notebook like I'm going by a notebook. If you want, you could do index cards and write it down. That might be another fun way to do it too. Have a stack of index cards, and each one is, you know, a step or a day, and then when you're finished with it, you flip it over and you're moving on to the next one. So you don't see a big block of text. All you see is one index card staring at you saying flesh tones, and you have to keep that index card staring you in the face on your hobby table with all the other index cards underneath it until you're finished, and then you can finally get rid of it, flip it over, and you just work your way down that stack of index cards until you get to the end, which is a smiley face. Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this Monday motivational video. I hope it is of some value to you. If it's a system you utilize, I'd like to hear from you. How does it work for you? I know Matthew's got it all planned out. It's something that I've even read about years ago. I don't remember if it was Jervis Johnson or somebody wrote how to paint an entire army, and they pretty much broke it, that article broke it up into weeks as well. But I think going even further than just breaking it up into weeks and really picking out the details. Like if I'm doing different squads, you know, that changes what I'm working on, right? If I have a squad of Space Marines and I also want to paint a squad of Imperial Guardsmen to go in the army, then the flesh tones, the armor, the weapons, everything is going to be different. So maybe one of these weeks is only painting up Space Marines, base coats, shades, highlights, and then the next week would be Imperial Guard. You know, you break it up with whatever you're working on. So this is going to change depending on what your project is. But if you're doing a month-long project, I think it's always a good idea to plot it out, plan for success. At my job, we call it setting yourself up for success. So you set up your project, you look and you organize it, and you, what's the old saying? Fail to plan, you're planning to fail. And I want you guys to be successful with all of your work. And if you found, like I said, if you found a system like this works for you, leave me a comment down below. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to me if you're not already, follow us along on Discord where we are diving into the February painting challenge. And thanks so much for watching, you guys. We'll see you in the next video.